It started like any ordinary afternoon in Brookfield, a quiet, sunny town where nothing much ever happened, until one moment, caught live on television, changed everything. A police officer's temper, a man's calm silence, and a truth that would shake a nation. Stay till the end, because what happened next left millions speechless. This is the story of Officer Martha and the man she thought she knew. It started like any other afternoon in the small, quiet town of Brookfield. The sun was warm, children were laughing in the park, and the air carried the smell of fresh-cut grass. It was the kind of day that made people believe the world was peaceful. But sometimes, peace can break in an instant. Officer Martha Johnson sat in her patrol car at the edge of the park, sipping lukewarm coffee and watching the community safety event taking place nearby. Local TV crews were filming, police officers were giving safety talks to families, and everything looked perfectly in order. She liked it that way. She liked control. She liked rules. She liked knowing everything had a place. For 9 years, she had worn that uniform with pride. People respected her. She believed she was one of the good ones, the kind who kept the town safe. But deep down, behind the confident stare and firm voice, was a part of her she never wanted to admit, a fear of what she didn't understand, and a tendency to judge before she truly looked. Her partner, Officer Steve, was chatting with the news crew, making sure they got the best angles. The department wanted this event to show friendly faces of law enforcement. Cameras rolled, kids smiled, and reporters introduced segments about community trust. Everything was perfect, until Martha saw him. A tall black man stood by the edge of the park, wearing a gray hoodie and jeans. He wasn't part of the crowd, wasn't holding a child's hand, wasn't smiling for the camera. He just stood there, calm and still, hands in his pockets, looking at the playground. Martha's eyes narrowed. "Who's that?" she muttered. Steve glanced up. "Just a guy waiting for someone, maybe." But Martha kept watching. Something in her tightened. "He's not doing anything," Steve said again, trying to diffuse her stare. She didn't respond. Her instinct, or what she thought was instinct, told her something was off. She radioed in, her voice low. "Possible suspicious individual, gray hoodie, near the park entrance." Steve sighed. "Come on, Martha, not here, not today. Cameras are rolling." But she was already out of the car. She approached him quickly, her boots crunching on the gravel. The man turned when he heard her footsteps. His eyes were calm, warm even. "Afternoon, officer," he said politely. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice sharp. He blinked, a little confused. "Just waiting for my brother. He's running late." "Can I see your ID?" "I didn't bring it," he said, a little embarrassed. "I just live nearby." "Put your hands where I can see them," she ordered. "Ma'am, I haven't done anything." The TV cameras turned in her direction. A few people nearby started to watch. The crowd murmured, curious. Steve saw what was happening and started walking over, whispering, "Martha, stop, not here." But it was too late. Her voice was raised now, clipped and angry. "Hands up, now!" The man hesitated for a second, not because he was resisting, but because he was confused. And in that second, Martha's fear turned to force. She grabbed his arm, twisted it behind his back, and slammed him to the ground. Gasps filled the air. A child screamed. The news camera caught the whole thing, perfectly framed, an officer pressing her knee into a man's back while he lay still, his face in the dirt. "Stop!" yelled Steve, grabbing her shoulder. "He's not resisting." But Martha didn't move until she heard the sound that would haunt her for months. The quiet, steady voice beneath her. "I wasn't doing anything, ma'am." Then silence. The whole park stood frozen.
The children who were just laughing a minute ago now clung to their parents. Someone in the crowd whispered, "She's being filmed." Martha finally stepped back, breathing hard. Jeremiah, that was his name, though she didn't know it yet, got up slowly, brushing off the dirt. His eyes were steady. He didn't yell, didn't curse, didn't even look angry. He just looked disappointed. That silence, captured on live television, was louder than any words could have been. By evening, the video had spread across every social platform in the country. The clip replayed again and again. Martha's voice shouting, Jeremiah on the ground, the look in his eyes. Hashtags filled the screen. Hashtag Justice for Jeremiah, hashtag Officer Martha, hashtag Brookfield PD. The department called it a misunderstanding. The chief defended her, but people weren't buying it. They saw what they saw. Martha sat alone in her kitchen that night, scrolling through comments. Thousands of them. Some were angry, some cruel, but what hurt most were the ones that said, "She's exactly what's wrong with the system." She told herself she didn't care. She told herself she was just doing her job. But when she turned off her phone and the silence returned, she heard that whisper again. Her calm voice saying, "I wasn't doing anything, ma'am."
Days later, a public hearing was announced. Cameras again, reporters again. This time, the story wasn't about safety, it was about accountability. The town hall was packed. Martha walked in wearing her uniform, back straight, face composed, but her hands trembled slightly. Steve sat behind her, silent. In the front row sat Jeremiah, wearing a dark suit and a sling on his arm. His younger brother, a boy of about 10, sat beside him, holding his hand. The mayor began the session. "Officer Johnson, the people of Brookfield have questions. Why did you confront and detain an unarmed citizen during a public event?" Martha cleared her throat. "He looked suspicious. I thought he might be a threat." The crowd gasped. Steve put his head in his hands. Then, from the front row, Jeremiah stood up. The room went still. "Ma'am," he said quietly, "do you even know who I am?" Martha frowned. "I don't care who you are." He nodded slowly. "My name is Dr. Jeremiah Brooks. I'm a surgeon at Brookfield Memorial Hospital, the hospital that sponsors that community event you were policing." A ripple of shocked whispers spread through the crowd. The mayor's mouth fell open. Cameras flashed. Jeremiah continued, his voice calm and even. "I was waiting for my little brother. He was one of the kids receiving the town safety award that day." Martha's face turned pale. The words hit her like a wave. She remembered the boy's face now, one of the smiling children she had seen before the incident. Her stomach twisted. The crowd watched her silently, waiting for her reaction, but she couldn't speak. She couldn't even look at him. By that evening, the second video, the moment Jeremiah revealed who he was, had gone viral too. It was everywhere. Headlines read, "Officer confronts black surgeon on live TV." Her picture was next to his. Her badge number, her department, her entire life, exposed. She was suspended the next day. Some people defended her online, saying she made a mistake under pressure, but most didn't. They saw arrogance, they saw prejudice, and they were done forgiving it. For weeks, she barely left her house. The phone never stopped ringing. Messages piled up. Her friends avoided her. The world had decided who she was, and maybe they were right. But guilt has a strange way of working. It doesn't fade when the noise stops. It grows louder in the quiet. Every night she replayed that moment in her mind, the way Jeremiah looked at her,
not with anger, but with disappointment. That look broke something inside her.
One morning, she woke before dawn, eyes swollen from another sleepless night. She dressed in plain clothes, no uniform, no badge, and drove to Brookfield Memorial Hospital. She sat in her car for nearly 20 minutes, gripping the steering wheel, before finally walking inside. When she reached Jeremiah's office, she froze at the door. He looked up from his desk when she knocked, surprised to see her standing there with a small bouquet of white lilies. "Officer Johnson?" he said quietly. "Or should I say, Ms. Johnson now?" "Martha," she said softly. "Please, just Martha." He studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Come in." She stepped inside. The room was filled with photos, patients smiling, thank you cards taped to the wall and a shelf full of awards. She felt smaller than she ever had before. "I don't expect you to forgive me," she began, her voice trembling. "I just needed to say I was wrong, completely wrong. I judged you before I even knew your name. I let my fear win. I hurt you, your brother, and everyone who believed in me." He listened silently. She couldn't tell what he was thinking. Finally, he spoke. "Do you know what hurt the most?" She shook her head. He smiled faintly, but it wasn't a happy smile. It wasn't being slammed to the ground. It was seeing how fast someone could look at me and see a threat instead of a person. Tears welled in her eyes. She whispered, "I'm so sorry." He nodded. "Then show it. Change it. Because there are a lot more people like me out there, and a lot more like you who could do better." That was all he said, but those words stuck with her more than any punishment ever could. From that day forward, Martha began to rebuild. She resigned from the police force, not to escape, but to start over. She began volunteering at community centers, talking to kids about empathy, bias, and second chances. She even joined local programs that trained officers to handle situations differently, with understanding, not fear.
She was no longer Officer Johnson. She was just Martha, a woman trying to do right after doing wrong. And Jeremiah, he kept saving lives. But every few months, when there was a town event or a charity fundraiser, he would invite Martha to speak beside him. People were shocked at first. The same woman who had once attacked him, now standing beside him, telling her story. But as she spoke, they saw something real. No script, no excuses, just raw truth. "It's easy to wear a badge," she would tell them. "It's harder to wear empathy. I failed once, but I'll spend the rest of my life making it right." Over time, people began to see her differently, not as a villain, but as a human being who fell and chose to rise the right way. And Jeremiah, he didn't just forgive her. He believed in her redemption. They became unlikely friends. Sometimes they'd walk through the park where it all happened. He'd laugh softly and say, "Remember this spot?" And she'd nod, eyes misty, whispering, "I'll never forget." In those moments, something beautiful had replaced the pain. Understanding. Forgiveness didn't erase the past, but it gave them both a way to move forward. Months later, at a large community event, Jeremiah gave a speech. He talked about healing, not just in hospitals, but in hearts. And when he finished, he called Martha to the stage. The crowd fell silent as she walked up. I'm not proud of who I was that day, but I'm proud of who I'm trying to become. I once thought strength came from authority, but I learned that real strength comes from compassion. People rose to their feet. Some cried, some clapped, and for the first time in a long time, Martha felt free. In a world filled with anger and quick judgment, sometimes one mistake can become the spark for change. Martha learned that the real power of a uniform isn't control, it's kindness. And Jeremiah proved that grace is stronger than hate. So, the next time you're quick to judge someone by how they look or where they stand, remember this story. Because behind every face, there's a story you don't know yet. And sometimes, forgiveness isn't weakness. It's the most powerful act of all. If this story touched your heart, don't just move on. Leave a comment if you believe in second chances. Share it with someone who needs a reminder that people can change. And subscribe for more real stories that open hearts and change minds. And remember, every heart can heal if it chooses to.